This is the SunBeam product. It comes in an anti-static bag. Let's open it up. Inside the bag is a board that looks like this, and it has a couple wires connected to it. One is a ribbon cable for this bottom connector, and then there's another antenna wire that's a strip antenna that plugs onto the chip that's on here. That's a wireless chip. And then the top connector is another connector. The back side has a little double stick tape on it, and that's how we are going to mount it in the unit. Now, before we mount it in the unit, there's a couple things you want to be aware of. There's a connector that's labeled display. That's this one here. You can kind of see the word display on the bottom of that connector. And then on the bottom, where the cable is plugged in, this is labeled control PCB. So just leave that cable in its connector. They will interchange, so it's important not to plug this cable into that port. This is the SunScreen product. It basically is a protector for your Sun 2000/1000. It comes with a battery. This is a rechargeable lithium polymer battery that can last about 11 hours. The board comes in this anti-static bag. Let me open it up here and show you guys what's inside. Basically, there's a board that looks like this with 3 connectors on it. One of them has this ribbon cable already connected. The other one that looks like it is right here. And then there's a white connector that connects the battery to it. Okay, and then this cable will fit into this connector, but it's important not to mix the two together. This one on the bottom with the ribbon cable already connected to it says control PCB. It says motherboard. All right, that's pretty much it. Oh, on the back side, there's a couple double stick tape that will be used to mount this board in the unit. That's it. We're down at our unit. We're about to install the SunBeam and the SunScreen. So first of all, I want to make sure everyone's safe. So whatever we're doing, we're going to open up the box. So we will need to turn off the power. The way to do that is you first turn off the DC power. So let me flip the breaker here. And then I would like to get this thing to drain out until it says input voltage too low. Maybe go down to about 10 volts before I shut the AC off. All right, so the message just came on, and we just wait a few more seconds. So I think it's good enough to shut the AC off. So here we go. Okay, once the AC is off, we are going to remove 8 screws. There's 4 on top here, and there's 4 on the bottom. So I can do this modification when it's mounted on the wall. Some people might find it more convenient to take the unit down and put it on a bench and do it that way, but you can easily do it with it mounted. Okay, so I'm gonna start unscrewing these screws. There's 4 on top. Okay, now all the screws are removed. I'm going to pull the cover off. Now keep in mind there is a cable connected to the display, which is mounted on the back of this cover. So just be careful when you pull that off. And what I've noticed is it's easier to disconnect it at the display end rather than at the control board end. And the reason why is because the control board is not really locked into place into the motherboard. So what you have to do is possibly remove the RTV if it's on this connector, and then you have to try to wiggle it off of the board, and it's kind of difficult when you have that little board to work with. So it's much easier to just pull it off, and there might be some RTV as well on this cover, but you just pull it off like this. Okay, after we remove the cover, you see a board inside looks like this. This is the cable that was disconnected from the display. The control board is actually this little square board that's on top here. The motherboard is the big board with all the transformers and heatsink. So what we're going to do is install the SunBeam first. The SunBeam will go on this side. So you have the empty connector on top, and then the one that's ready to have the cable on the bottom. So you peel off the red backing for the double stick tape and just put it right on the yellow top of the top two transformers. With the 1000, this is a 2000, with the 1000 you only have two of these instead of 4 of them lined up, so you just put it on the top half. Then you can go ahead and feed the antenna through one of the vent holes. They're all, any one, doesn't matter. Just feed it through and just let it hang. The cable that's connected from the display to the control board has to be removed. So there's usually a white RTV adhesive or something that you might have to peel off in order to undo the connector. Also, this board is real easy to unplug. So what you need to do is put your fingers and hold onto the board, push it down, and then wiggle and pull the connector out like that. Okay? Now where you just unplugged, the display one can go ahead and go into the SunBeam board on the top connector. So just go ahead and fit that in. It only goes one way. And then from the SunBeam board, you take this cable and plug it into the control board, which is where you unplugged for the display. And then make sure you push down and make sure the board is down, and you hear a click sound to make sure the connector snaps in. This will go back into the display when we put the cover back on. Okay, next I'm going to install the SunScreen. This is the board here, and it goes on the right side of the transformers. You see that? And the open connector faces up, and the one with the cable is in the down position. This is very similar to the SunBeam board. It's a little bit bigger than the SunBeam board, but it's the same mounting method. So take out the red backing off the double stick tape, and then I like to just put it underneath this bunch of cable here and just push it up as high as it can go. And once it's in there, push it down and just hold it for maybe 10 seconds so the adhesive can stay. Okay, once that's done, you have to unplug a cable off of the control board. So just like we did with the display, this cable connection here, it's a black connector, needs to be unplugged. It comes from the motherboard. So put your hand on the control board and pull it out. Again, you might have to remove some of the RTV, the white RTV first before you can pull it out. Okay, and then this one plugs into, make sure you have the right direction. There's only one way to plug it in. Okay, make sure you connect it to the open connector that's marked motherboard. Okay, so then take the cable that's already plugged in, that's labeled control PCB, and plug it in to where you unplugged it at the control board. And then just move the cable out a little bit. And then push down on the control board just to make sure it makes good connection. And then finally, the last step is to take this battery here And it's important not to connect it with the battery already connected. This is always a good idea to do this at the last step. So there's only one way to plug in the connector, and it goes off to the side right here. Make sure it's snug. And once you plug the battery in, there should be a little blue LED that turns on, showing that it is being backed up now. And then I just like to drape the battery over the connector, the white connector, and then just sit it off to the side right here where the capacitor is, or are. And it just sits nicely right on the side there. And that's it for the installation. If everything's good, all the connectors are tight, you have the little blue light, it should be ready to go. So then I get the cover and I put the display connector back, and then I slide the cover over, making sure the battery is good. The antenna stays up here, and then I put screws, and that's it. Now that the cover's back, I can flip on the AC. So, and you see the screen light up. Next, I will turn on the DC. And you see the voltage goes up. Next, we will use a browser to access the remote control feature.